Hi, we're back with Neil and John, my students here and friends. So we're going to look a little bit today at the basic levels of work that I like to do in my teaching, which is bone, muscle, energy, and spirit, and how they apply to the concept of technique. In this case, a martial art technique. We have some kids playing here in the park, so we'll have a little bit of noise there, but that's part of what we include here in the park, part of what we put up with for free rent. But I don't actually put up with it. I just include it in being here. It's nice. So, anyways, so with regard to technique, we start with bone level. So the bone level of any technique is just the basic how-to of it, and your goal here is to really adhere to the technique. So in this case, the technique we're going to focus on is roll back and press. To do a rollback to neutralize a punch, and to do a press to come back on him. So the rollback is where you meet and merge with the opponent's incoming force, kind of surf the wave in, and then guide it off path just enough that it doesn't hit you, and then move in with a press, which is a very compressed kind of push. It's the kind of movement where you want to kind of compress the person and push into their core. We're not going to do the short energy, dislodge their organs, someone kill your father press. We're going to use like a medium energy press that kind of moves them a little bit. So John is going to be the person working on the technique, and Neil is going to be the person who's just supplying punches. So at the bone level, we're just working with adhering to the technique and breaking it down and learning it and making sure that you know it. So Neil, go ahead and throw some punches. And John is going to roll back and press. So go slow enough that you can really feel every little increment of that blend, and then the press. Right, try the other side so we can see it a little better on the rollback part. So there's the blending part, and then John's going to move in, find his range, and go in with a press. It's not so important specifically, our rollback and press compared to your rollback and press. It's just the level of work. The bone level of work is where you're really adhering to that technique, steering the movement towards those techniques, and studying them to make sure that you've got it. Now the muscle level of the technique is going to be how smooth and soft and graceful and almost sloppy. You want to just really relax and do it as soft and relaxed as you can. So John is just going to be trying to be as I guess relaxed is the only word I can come up with this morning. As relaxed and soft as you can, John. So an easy, mergy, blending movement, almost casual, almost drunken style. And you can pick up speed just a little bit. So it comes in and you merge, and then, that's it. See how smooth and graceful and even you can make that? Nice. One more time. So when you know the basic technique and when it's relaxed and soft, then you can move to the energy level. And this is where you suspend your joints, John, and you feel all your joints with a little bit of space in them. All the joints have a little bit of motion in them. You're thinking of your whole body as an entire unit. You might even connect to your breath a little more. You might inhale on the rollback and exhale on the issue. And this is the level where you're just referring to the technique. So you're not adhering to the technique, you're not relaxing the technique, you're focused on just referring to the technique. So this is a case where if the punch came right up the middle and you didn't quite pick it up, you don't have to do rollback. You're just referring to rollback. You'd like to do rollback, you'd like to do press, but if in the moment of the movement you don't feel it, you can do something else. It's just, you're just gently steering your response towards rollback and press. So Neil, throw some punches and keep that neutral, loose, relaxed feeling in the joints. As soon as you push, recover it. So John, as soon as you press, have that loose, floating, soft, almost like lead puppet suspension feeling. Nice. Just going to give some different angles. And again, you're just gently steering towards these techniques. You don't necessarily have to do them at this point. Whatever you feel like doing. You might discover a shoulder strike feels better in that position or something else. Yeah. That's nice. So you go from really breaking it down and adhering to it, to relaxing and softening it, smoothing it out, and then into just loosening the joints and just referring to that technique, keeping it kind of a light imperative to do that technique. The spirit level of this kind of comes and goes on its own, and that's where you're beyond technique. Your body just responds naturally to the situation, and maybe it comes up with rollback, maybe it doesn't, maybe it presses, maybe it doesn't. You have to be a little more open to whatever happens. So Neil, if you would give him some slightly less predictable punches, and John, respond however you will. And you might do roll back and press, you might not, you might do something else. Keep recovering your neutral, relaxed, balanced place where you're just kind of hanging, ready for the next thing. I'm going to move back and get a little bit different view. Yeah, good. So this is not necessarily to say that this is the best or only or to show off our technique or our muscle movements or anything today. We're mainly just sort of saying these are some levels of work to break it down, if you like. I kind of like to do these things on a dimmer switch rather than to start off with spirit level and say I'm going to try to do this spontaneously and utterly beyond technique with no premeditation or thought whatsoever. Every time an attack comes to me, it seems like a very high bar. On the other hand, saying every time it comes I'm going to break it down and go super slow and adhere to this technique and do it exactly the textbook way I was taught seems like a pretty low bar in a way. So if you see it on a spectrum, and you can break it down a little bit and say, well, let's start with adhering to it. Let's start with steering our movements towards this. Now let's move towards relaxing it and softening it and making it just a little more comfortable and graceful. Now let's float the joints a little bit and just refer to this idea. And maybe I do roll back and press, and maybe I don't. Maybe I do the technique, maybe I don't. But I'm just kind of more, I call it referring to the technique. It's just a guiding idea. And then maybe every now and then you slip into just the spirit level of it where you actually are beyond technique. Every once in a while I'll be pushing hands or doing a technique like this, and I'll feel like I use as much energy as pushing a box of Kleenex across a table, and the other person goes flying. And I feel like I didn't do anything. Those moments happen. But to aim for that and to consciously think that every time I do it is going to be like that, it seems kind of idealistic and like a very high bar. So breaking it into the spectrum of adhere to, relax into, just refer to, and then allow to happen is a nice model for learning bone, muscle, energy, and spirit, which is how I teach solo movements as well, as you know. So thanks very much for being our demo guys today. This is Gene Burnett from GeneBurnett.com. Subscribe to this if you like this kind of thing. Subscribe to my channel or visit my website, GeneBurnett.com. Thanks for watching.